Hi there. Well, today we're going to talk about tires, tire pressure, things of that nature. Now, before you think it's a very boring topic, I got to tell you, one of the most interesting meals I've ever had in my life was I was invited to dinner with Eddie Merckx, yes, the Eddie Merckx, Gianni Moda, Tony Mayer, who owns ASOS Clothing, Claude Duco LaSalle, and one other cyclist, I can't remember his name. And the dinner conversation was rather heated and rather animated regarding tires, tire pressure, and what should be used in the Paris-Roubaix race. And here's the king of cycling. They went on, and I mean, it was such a heated and wonderful discussion. So let's talk about tires, and because they're very important to you. I got some notes here. I guess it always comes to mind, what came first, the tire or the wheel? I don't know which one, but I think the tire was invented 2,500 years ago in this small island out in the Mediterranean, and that's why they named it the Tire, after the island. Don't use that on a test. On your bike, check your tires every day. You gotta check them every day. You'd be surprised what can happen overnight. Little gremlins sneak into your room and they play around with the valves, or they do something, or you picked up something at the very end of the ride and caused your tire to go flat. So always check your tire first thing in the morning. Spin it with your hand on it, check and see if there's any debris or anything like that, and feel it for pressure. If it doesn't feel up to pressure, put more air in it or have it checked. Okay. Now, a little bit of technology. I don't want to get you crazy with that before we go out and actually do some work with the tire. We use tires that are mostly made in Europe, and they use the millibar system of measuring barometric pressure, so they call it a bar. A bar is the amount of pressure that the air exerts on the earth at sea level. It's simply that. And it comes down to, it's about 14.7 pounds. So if on a tire, we'll talk later, if a tire says 8 bar pressure maximum, 8 times 14.7, and if you're not too good at math, you make it 15. 8 times 15 is 120, so don't inflate it over 120. So with that, we're going to go out. I'm going to show you some practical hands-on aspect of taking care of your tires. Do it every day. Do it before you ride. You can do it up in your room. You can do it downstairs when you're getting ready. But always have your tires checked at the last minute, especially for little cuts. Things might have happened at the end of the ride or during the ride the previous day that you didn't notice, and there you are. You go down about a mile and whatever happened takes effect. So let's look at some of the videos outside now. Okay, to inflate your tire to the proper pressure, you have to know what the recommended pressure is by the manufacturer, and that is dependent upon a number of factors and usually has a range, and we'll talk about that in another video. Here's some tires. Here's one where, hope you can read it. If not, I'll read it to you. It'll say 100 to 125 psi dash 7.0 to 8.6 bar. Okay, that's this tire. Then we come back here. Here's another one. Minimum 8 bar, 115 psi. Maximum 11 bar, 160 psi. Now these are pretty legible on this tire. Now some tire manufacturers are more mysterious. I know you can't read it. I have a rough time reading it. But in there's some raised lettering that'll say maximum pressure 8.5 bar, 120 psi. So what you have to do is determine what the pressure is that's recommended by your manufacturer and inflate to that. Now, if you are a heavier rider, you want to inflate to the higher side. If you are a lighter rider, you may inflate to the lower side. It makes for a softer ride, but you'll know if you're too low because you'll have some other problems like pinch flats, and we'll talk about that in this video as well. Okay? Okay, now to inflate your tire, you first have to know what kind of valve you have. Believe it or not, even in valve tires, tire valves, there's no consistency. So you have to determine whether you have a Schrader valve, which is the one that's commonly found in car tires. You recognize it. You might see it on your own car. Looks like that, has a little plastic cap on it, which actually should be used for those tires in case there is a little bit of a leak in the valve mechanism. Or you have what's more commonly known in the racing world as a Presta valve. Presta means fast, and you can quickly get air into your tire using a Presta valve. Now I'm going to put the camera down. You can continue to hear me. First thing you do, you approach the bike, you got a soft tire, whoops, you unscrew the little mechanism on the top of the valve. Now hopefully you've already thrown away these two parts, which are there for shipping. Some people need these because they need them. The valve cap is generally not needed for a Presta valve because you're not protecting the mechanism in any way. If you really get into a situation where you want to use a Schrader valve, which is the kind of attachment that is used at gas stations and standard pumps, you can buy an attachment that goes on to the Schrader, and then you can put the Presta valve, you can put a Schrader valve attachment from the gas pump on there. I have always used the Presta valve. So the first thing you do is you unscrew that little thing on the end, and be careful. It's not very strong, but all you have to do is unscrew it. And you take your pump. Now, I would rotate the wheel a little bit to get the attachment in the valve stem to a convenient place. And if you're going to make sure your bike is fully supported, lean it up against somebody else's car so if it falls it doesn't scratch yours. Take the valve, take the pump. Now there's all sorts of configurations on this and I can't touch all of them, so I'm going to just put this on here. You put it on, you press it on. Some of them have a little lever so that it holds on, and you pump until you have the proper pressure. Now, depending upon where you started, now you hear a little click. That means that the valve is opening and closing under pressure and allowing air to get in. Then when you get up to the pressure that you desire, either by feel or by what's on the gauge of the pump, you stop. Release that. Now if there's the release mechanism on the pump, you can press it. That relieves the pressure in this line. Pull it off straight, pull straight. And the reason you pull straight is you don't want to damage this little mechanism right here. And then you screw this mechanism down. That'll hold the air in, and off you go. Okay, now you know everything you ever wanted to know about tires and how they apply to you riding in the Tour de Pink and more. And the only thing I can say is if you have a problem with pumping the air in your tire, there's a simple solution. Get somebody else to do it. Any one of the SAG drivers, or there's always somebody around with a pump at the start to make sure that you get off to a good start so you can have somebody else check your tires for you, make sure it has the proper air in it, spin them. They'll do what you need to do to get you up and going. So have fun, and see you later.